You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we show business owners and entrepreneurs how to diversify into real estate by equipping you with the tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo. Hey guys, we're excited for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. Our goal on this show is to expose you to all things real estate investing so that you have no excuse but to take action on your investment strategies.
And really, the people that succeed in real estate and the people that don't succeed are usually just the people that are willing to take consistent action. And so if you can take the small steps, the base hits, consistent action in real estate, over time, I guarantee you, you will succeed.
Yeah.
And that's really all it takes. But a lot of people we see on, the podcasts and the YouTube videos and Instagram, these quick hits, 1 to 2 years, all of a sudden it seems like they've hit financial freedom. And really that's usually false or just not the case, or it really was like a unique situation. And so don't get discouraged if you've been in it for a while like us and you still haven't arrived. Yeah. We're on the journey too. So it's good to have you back with us. But we have a great guest today. Doug, how are you doing?
Good, very good. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited.
So Doug, you're kind of on our backyard here, or maybe we're in your backyard, depending on how you look at it. But just in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, you're an agent with the Chabris Group. Give us a little background to real estate and where you kind of splash in that pond.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I've been licensed about 3 years, and so in terms of on the agency side of things, so I sell, as if we're looking at Ohio or Cincinnati, really as far east as Adams, Brown County, Lake Winoka area, and then as far west as the border, so close to Indiana, and then up to Dayton, and Northern Kentucky. We've got about 6-7 agents on our team that specialize in Northern Kentucky, and so that's kind of the agency side of things, and the investment side of things we can get into more a little bit, but own a couple single families in Northern Kentucky, own 2 and manage 2 5-unit buildings in Oakley, which is in Cincinnati. And started my investment, journey, if you will, back in 2017, 2018.
That's a good time
investing
to
in
get
tax.
real estate.
Absolutely. Before everything got too bonkers. So started investing in tax liens and tax deeds out in Indiana and some in Florida.
So let's rewind. You've been licensed on the agency side for about 3 years. What were you doing before that?
Professionally.
What was professionally kind of before that even led into you having some disposable income to take on some tax lien investments?
So I worked at a W-2 job. It was a mechanical contracting company, actually one of the largest in the tri-state, excuse me. And so, at the time I started really diving into like the Bigger Pockets forums and a podcast. And that's actually how I met my first, my business partner, who, and kind of like we could maybe go into this more, but I've always been about finding relationships and partnerships.
Yeah.
So for example, I just put in the forums, like not knowing any better. Hey, I can put in like some work, some property management, boots on the ground. I don't have a lot of capital, but I would love to start something. Well, like I get a private message, and who turns out to be my present day business partner. He's a high W-2 naval. He's stationed in the Navy in Okinawa, Japan. He's a radiologist. Like he and his wife, I think, is like an engineer. So they're looking to deploy all this capital, and shelter their W-2 income. And so within, probably less than 6 months, we identify and buy our first 5-unit. And then we send out mailers on the same street. It's a cul-de-sac of 5 units. And we pick up our second one off market.
What?
So that's kind of the how I got started with the buy and hold.
So Bigger Pockets is online dating for real estate.
Yeah. So investors. What year was that?
That was 2018. Yeah.
What a wild ride. What a way to get a connection too. Just a random forum, which Bigger Pockets, those who don't know, is like the largest real estate, investor forum there is. But still, to get someone like that ends up being legit and actually investing with you. So you were of the partnership, You were the boots on the ground. It was in an area where you live then?
Yeah, it was both less than 5 minutes from where my wife and I lived and then where I worked. So we were renting at the time. This was, yeah, 2018. I just wanted to, even when I put in my message on the forum, I just wanted to what's called house hack, if anyone's unfamiliar. I just wanted to maybe manage and cut out our housing, our rents, and just I'll manage for free. We'll just take that and apply it to my rents, my housing
Right.
expense. So we ran the numbers. It didn't quite work out like that. So I did not end up taking a monthly, property management disbursement or management fee. So yeah, learned a lot on the job with managing tenants, contractors, different vendors,
Here's the
inspectors.
question. Here's the question. How'd you convince your wife to move into the 5 unit?
Well, that was the plan. It didn't end up working, so we did remain
You didn't
renting.
convince her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. So the funny thing is, guys, and this is like what I call a full circle moment. One of the units of the buildings, my wife and I actually looked at when we were still renting. That was one of the buildings. 3 years later, we ended up, my
Wow,
partner and
owning.
I end up, yeah. So it's like
Crazy.
walking through one of those vacant units when we were
Mm.
doing our walkthrough just blew my mind.
I
So
came through as a tenant and now I own it. That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So good times for sure.
So you got your feet wet in the investing. Bigger Pockets connected you with this partnership. That's and that is really cool in of itself. Just to kind of demystify, like, is it really? Can people find partnerships? It's like no, you can. There's a right way to do it, but that networking is in place for that to happen. What made you want to get your real estate license?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of folks, not really happy with my current W-2 9 to 5, just stuffy kind of corporate job. And so, yeah, my wife just sent me the kind of the Indeed information, and she's like, you already manage, invest, you've got a little bit of background. Like, why don't you just go in and have a meeting? So, yeah, I did, and I committed to joining the team even before I had started preparing for the test. So fast forward 8, 9 weeks later, and yeah, got licensed in December of 2022, which is kind of tricky because interest rates were starting to rise, and then inventory transaction count. I mean, we're
Yeah.
at about a 30-year low. So I'm
Wow.
learning how to read and interpret contracts. I'm learning how to sell, markets, negotiate, all of the things. But it was really good. The first year I went on to sell 10 homes, and then my second year was 17, and then I did 28 this past year. So,
It's awesome.
That's
yeah,
good,
it was
steady,
good.
consistent trajectory.
Yeah.
Yep.
We see, I remember Seth and I, when did you get your license? 2021?
21. Yeah.
That was 2019. And there's like this notion that you're just like going to jump in and hit the ground running. And it's actually very competitive. Who knew? When you're in a high market, a lot of people get their license because you can get it in 12 weeks. And in a down market, it's tough because the established agents kind of have a market share, right? So it's always there's always some kind of mountain to over climb there, but that's good consistent growth.
Yeah, and actually, your guys' intro, I really love you talking about the consistency, and you know, Gary Keller of Keller Williams, of course, kind of beats down that time on task over time, and it's true. Like just consistently doing the things that are kind of boring, like lead generation
Right.
and setting a point, like not the fun, shiny, objects of going out and like filming, or I mean, yes, that's important, but it's like the daily grind of mundane
Mm-hmm.
activities that lead to, if we're talking about real estate sales, the closed contract. So, all the way at the top, we've got the leads, talking to people, then we funnel them down into setting an appointment, to then meeting them, signing them, putting them under contract, and then finally getting a closed file. So to do that, as you two both are well aware, it's a lot of mundane, it can be tedious
Mm-hmm.
process, but investing is kind of the same way. If you're analyzing or underwriting deals, it's looking at so many deals, seeing if it fits, submitting, potentially lowball or what could be quantified as insulting offers. So yeah, time on task over time is huge, and the basics really just can't be ignored. I think Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers says, 10,000 hours of just repetitive doing the same thing will develop mastery. So
There's so many things in professional life, just life in general, that are simple conceptually, incredibly difficult in
Yeah.
execution.
yeah,
And once you like when I got into the business, um, you pretty quickly learn what the fundamentals are that are going to set you up to succeed. And any skill in a relatively short amount of time, let's say 0 to 6 months, you can kind of go from like a 0, I know nothing about this, and get to like a 6 if you're, a moderately fast learner. To close the distance from a 6 to an 8 is much more difficult in terms of the energy that you have to expend and the skills you have to acquire and the habits you have to develop. And then to go from an 8 to a 9 is even harder, right? And so then by the end, you're scrapping to pick up 10% improvement, but it's very difficult. And that top 20% is where you just, it goes bonkers.
yeah. I mean, you hit it hit the nail on the head there. It's why mastery and just mastering the fundamentals are so important. I mean, to give you a not even professional example, but it's more of a personal one, right? So I used to compete in bodybuilding. Well, inevitably, right, at the gym, you might see folks doing the traditional, if we're talking maybe bench press or squat, you know,
Hey, is
squat.
bodybuilding making a comeback?
Um,
It feels like it's making I feel like that's just, I see people doing it, talking about it more.
yeah, I think, I think the exposure and the awareness is probably more prevalent than ever. It's hard. I mean, I'm biased. I think a lot of, again, this is rabbit hole, but early thousands, 90s, I think that was kind of the golden
Yeah.
age of bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Um, we're also seeing a lot of folks die off, in their 30s and 40s now. So like you could kind of look at it both ways. Yeah, I mean, anything for awareness for health and sports, I think is great. I mean, considering I think, looking at obesity and diabetic epidemic
Right.
in the States.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
But I didn't mean to knock you off there. But you're in there, you're watching people do bench and all these kind of core things.
Yeah, but like, so a perfect example, right, is say someone, loads up the squat bar and they can put on, 135. So we're talking 90, I'm sorry, not, 45s on each side.
Okay,
They
that's
might also
me.
work.
That's me. I'm here. I'm in the conversation at 135.
And they might add on, if they can, another 45. So now we're looking at 225.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of when you start to see the fall off of maybe 275, 315 and on.
Yeah.
And what happens is you can, if you don't master the fundamentals of squatting or performing a bench press
Mm,
properly, let's just say 135, if you just keep adding weights, and you're gonna get stapled, right?
yeah.
And so it's the
Yeah.
same thing with mastering the fundamentals of like a market shift. So, like you had mentioned, lead generation, marketing, in a market that's really slow, or hunting deals if you're an investor when it's like it's really slow. When the time inevitably comes for that upswing in market activity, increased sales, all of those things, if you've been doing all of the fundamentals, which is underwriting deals, talking to property owners, sending out mailers,
Hmm.
myself, I set all my folks up on a weekly email newsletter, because when the time comes for real estate needs, and Doug has been in their inbox every week, he's been sending them videos, postcards, quarterly phone calls. The agents who a lot of times take
Yeah.
off between October and January, they're gonna be struggling to fill their pipeline,
Yeah.
because we know from a real estate agent sales standpoint, as well as from an investor standpoint, all the activities you do now, they're gonna translate 30, 60, 90 days in your bank
Yeah.
account.
Yeah.
So if you're not front loading the activities now, 3 months from now, whether it's your pipeline or your
Dude,
bank account, it's going to look empty.
it's funny.
What real estate has taught me is delayed gratification. And it's
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about. I mean, nothing happens fast. You don't get paid fast. Things don't close fast. You can't control the timeline for any of your customers, any of your clients. And it really makes you practice, like, if you're going to do the fundamentals and you're going to do the right things, delayed gratification. And it's doing the right things over and over again. Obviously, if you're doing the wrong things over and over again, you're not going to get any business. But, so what do you think for you guys and your team, what kind of sets your team apart? And what do you feel like sets you apart as an individual that, hey, 3 years in the business, I'm growing every year. I've almost doubled my business again. And so, I mean, what's kind of your qualifying, feature, unique proposition to your clients?
Yeah, so as a group collectively, with a capital S systems, so we have, I mean, the reality is we sold, I think, 610 homes last year as a group, um, of 40 agents or so.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really do that without scale and having systems and processes in place. So I think when we're talking about a team, the ability for us to serve clients at a very high level is we have systems and processes for everything from the pre-appointments to the appointment, post-appointment, and then throughout the transaction, then of course the post-transaction. So that's huge, having a system for everything, whether it's lead generation, facilitating the transaction, and setting expectations with the client as well. So, as well as we have what's called our Love It or Leave It program. So for our buyers, it's kind of how it sounds. If I help, you guys buy a house within 12 months, if you hate it for whatever reason, if you need to move, if you need to relocate, I'll actually sell it on the listing side for free, like no questions asked. And there's a small premium if someone wanted to upgrade that to 24 months. So that's one of our value propositions we have. We can also, bring cash offers. MOFRs are what they're called, make offer for immediate response. So we've got some different incentives and programs.
How many times do people actually take you up on those?
So that's the thing. We try to think we do such a robust job during our buyer consultation is that we get so far into the weeds about what is important to the consumer, to the client, that I mean, I could call up our CEO, but probably less than 5 we've ever had to do that. And it hasn't been out of those handful of times, like I'm pretty sure it's like a freak accident, like one of the clients might have had a death or a relocation, not that they actually hated the house or wanted to get out from under it. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. As well as that, because that would hurt our bottom line too, having to sell that for free. So
Doug will list stuff for free.
But it is a unique value proposition, especially if they're where the difference really comes in competitive situations where you're getting interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. Obviously the referral, goes a long ways, and maybe they're not interviewing other agents anyway. But especially for the people that are like, hey, I'm actively going out, I've reached out to 2 or 3 agents, having some sort of unique value proposition like that goes a lot further when they're comparing 2 different teams. They're like, wow, this team offers something very unique. And it almost feels like a blanket. It's like an insurance blanket to where it's like, man, if something did happen or if I was unhappy, they at least have that. And so that's pretty cool that you guys do that.
Well, when you have tools on your tool belt, and you're just putting all those in front of a potential client, it's funny to me in retrospect to identify the thing that made the difference. So like, for example, Seth and I have a texting service, that we'll put out in front of the house, and it's like a geotagged system where somebody can drive by and scan that, text, GS Homes, blah, 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 blah. In a listing presentation, that little thing, it's a lead funnel for us to get buyers. So that's that. There's a benefit there. It's more exposure for the seller, and it's a unique thing that differentiates us from the competition.
Yeah.
And there have been people that, you'll see it in their body language, how impressed they are through that.
It's just something new to the area, especially our area kind of lags behind technology-wise, maybe probably way more than Cincinnati. But again, to your point, it's those little touches that, over time, once you stack a couple of those up, it really makes a big impact.
Yeah, it's anything you can do because the consumer nowadays, what I've found is really savvier than they have been in a long time. And you couple that with recently, I feel like realtors have had an issue conveying their value to clients, as kind of demonstrated by the most previous lawsuit. Having to convey your what you bring to the table as maybe a buyer's agent, or a listing agent. So yeah, it's having those differentiators. I lean into our 5-star reviews a lot because that's, when you're looking on something Amazon, right? What's one of the first things you go to is the reviews. So you're looking at ideally 4.5 plus. And so if you start to see like some that are a little lower, because we all probably trust a stranger more than our friends and family if they were to recommend something, which is kind of bizarre. But yeah, it's leveraging anything that you can do to set yourself apart. And from an investing standpoint too, I like when I put that message out for my business partner responded to, I said I was transparent. I'm like, hey, I don't have a lot of capital, but gosh darn it, I live a few minutes away. I'm anything I can do to manage, to do turnovers, to do the leasing, manage the projects, like I'll do that. So I was just upfront about that and kind of getting a synergistic relationship, leveraging him being good on the financials, the underwriting, the capital, and me being the more like conceptual people person, front facing side of the business.
I want to comment on the networking aspect here. If there's been one lesson that you hear early on, but then you discover just how true it is as you progress in your business, it's the importance of networking. And even as I say that, it feels so redundant and so obvious that like it's easy to let it go over your head. But literally through this podcast or through just intentional networking efforts, even in the last year through like the BNI networks that we've joined, it works. And gosh darn it, sometimes I wish it didn't. But it does. And every time I'm always astounded, and usually it's not like the next day it works, but like we did an audit at the end of the year. It was kind of a networking audit a little bit when you look. We're looking at our podcast and like, hey, what has this done? What doors has it opened up? Have we monetized this? Yeah. And directly, have we monetized the podcast? The answer's been a resounding no.
We're not bringing in ad revenue from this puppy.
No. But the networking benefit of having 154 touches with guests over the last, almost 3 years, has translated to real business for us and relationships that are in the process of unfolding. So, Doug, as I hear you talk, and if you're listening to this podcast, I know it's uncomfortable and sometimes it's hard to trust the process, but I'm the byproduct 6 years in of what networking can do and why that's important, So, and you're going to chew and spit, right? Some are like, hey, I'm really going to cultivate this relationship. And then some, you're like, I don't know if there's a direct, connection here, but let's just keep it, keep the touch going and you never know when it'll come back around.
100%. No, you really straight up did a great job of nailing that. And I mean, the way you could look at it, networking is there's a season for sowing and a season for reaping, right? But the farmer never does the same in the both in the same season. So I mean, we may be speaking today and I don't know, 6 months from now or whenever, like I could have a Lima, Ohio referral. Like you just never know. It's not kind of, again, tying this back to what you had said about delayed gratification. Unfortunately, I think whether it's investors, agents, people in general, they do an activity today and they want to get compensated or recognized or paid or whatever accolade the next day. And that's unfortunately, sometimes that works, but more often it doesn't. If you host an open house, the likelihood of a cash buyer coming in and wanting to offer over at, like, the reality is not that high, but it can happen.
It
But
happened
it's
to us
more
one
of
time.
yeah, there you go.
It happened to us one time, and I always look back to that moment. I'm like,
This is
what
why
if
I'm going to show up and no one's going to come through. And you do 10 open houses, and 8 of them, you have one person come through and they're the next door neighbor. They're like, why are they selling? And did you know this about the house? And it's like, I don't want to know what
Yeah.
weird, quirky thing you know about the house. But you do, it's a volume game. Yeah. But to your point, seeing the end in mind, playing that long game, don't look to the end of your nose and be like, well, what's in it for me? If that's the way you approach life, dude, not only are you not going to be miserable and discontent the whole time, you're going to miss opportunities. You're going to look at somebody in 5 years who's a competitor of yours, and you're going to scratch your head and wonder why they're doing so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the most boiled down way I can make this is because again, I'm not very left brain, I'm more conceptual, but I know we have a lot of investors on this podcast. I would just say think of it like dollar cost averaging, right? There's never so long as like I'm pretty conservative, I'm risk adverse. So like for me, and I'm not that plugged into the market, so I just index fund,
mm-hmm.
just consistently. There's gonna be months where, it's super up and then months where it's down, but like you just ideally take a step back and look over, 30 years or so and you take that dollar cost averaging so long as you're putting, time on task over time, you're just putting in a little every month and you just watch it grow.
Yeah.
And if you just take that same principle to your investing business, if you're an agent, to your lead generation business, like you said, I mean, 3 years might go by and you might literally astound yourself with the results that you see. And then year 5, 7, 10, where compound interest really
Yeah.
kicks into effect.
Yeah. No, and what's screaming from your story, and just to give you props on this, is the discipline that it takes. And even from hearing that you were, into bodybuilding, that is like not easy. I mean, it's the diet, it's the discipline of being in the gym, it's doing the right exercises. There's so much that goes into that, and none of that progress is quick. You know what I mean? It's over time. And so taking those same principles and applying them to your agent business, applying them to your investment business, where it's over time. Holy crap, you walk into the gym, you see somebody jacked, you're like, how did they get that? Well, because they've been working out for 10 years. It's not like they started a year ago, unless they're on steroids, maybe, I don't know. But it takes time. And so I love that. So
I think this will be, and I see on your bio that you do some life coaching as well. And I want to get into that, but let's save it for the Little Nugget because I think that would be a great segue. But I want to hear about maybe some of the interesting either investment experiences that you've had or agent experiences here through our show segment.
Yeah, so let's see.
So just because that intro was underwhelming, we're going into our smaller pockets.
I was trying to lobby, man.
So, it was a weird intro for what we usually do. So this is the part of our show where we jump into the nitty gritty and talk about maybe some of our poor experiences in real estate investing, and in your context, maybe even on the agent side of things. What was something that had happened, a couple of your unique or bad experiences, and then what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I've actually have a hybrid, so it's one story, but it fits both the investment and agent side. So I was my same business partner. He actually had a 40-unit building up in Oakwood, so the Dayton area.
Okay, you say 4 or 40?
40-unit. I'm sorry. Yeah, small multifamily building.
Got it.
And this was probably 9 months into being licensed, and I listed it, and it immediately went under contract. And little did I know, the buyer's agent, she had been trained by an attorney, and I mean,
Wow.
she was a bulldog. I mean, this person, she would have to look up to see hell. She was, I mean, she was mean. Yeah. So, the where things got like really dicey was, and what I learned was, again, uh, my partner and I own and manage the two 5-unit buildings here in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and we inherited So if you have a multifamily building, a lot of times it can come with leased laundry equipment from a provider. There's Jets, there's CoinMock, there's Speed, there's all kinds of different providers. Well, with with her being like a super by the book real estate agent, and then her client being like
Hard nosed.
really on the investing, like I want
Yeah.
it this way, type A personality side.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was, and I don't know if you're familiar with laundry leases, but a lot of times they just roll over, and you have like a 1 to 2 month like due diligence or period to review the contract and get out if you want. If not, these lease terms are like 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like mafia kind of so yeah, long story short, I I should have gosh, I don't know. I mean, we disclosed that it was leased, but she didn't write that into the contracts. Sh- Long, we're both kind of at fault. This was 3 years ago, but yeah, long story short, it got close to where like getting brokers involved and maybe attorneys, and it
What
was really
was
a
the
lesson.
breakdown? Like they were renewing and they missed their window to review it?
Well, it was my part. I mean, we probably had 7 or so years left in the lease because
Uh-huh.
he had renewed and 3 years had passed. They didn't want that agreement, and so
So they were unhappy that they found out late in the game that they were inheriting these leases that they did not
cor-
want for the laundry.
correct. And the provider, Jets, they were like, absolutely no way, we're not getting rid of these. Yeah, I don't know what kind of like attorney voodoo magic they worked, but somehow post closing they got them out of there. The
Oh wow.
the new owner brought his in, but it was just really, really
Stressful.
stressful, really chaotic.
It's one of those small little details that you're like, hey, the laundry leases, it's income, we should be good. And they're like, no, 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 we have our own laundry service we want to use. And you're like, huh, well, we can probably figure it out. No, 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 no.
Yeah, figuring it out was learning that the investor actually owns a laundromat.
Oh,
So
Oh
wow.
wow.
yeah, it's like I was just getting my butt kicked on all fronts.
Oh
Uh,
man. And 9 months in the gig, 9 months isn't really long enough for new real estate agents to like really know
No.
what's going
Yeah.
on.
yeah,
And I can imagine just how stressful that
Oh,
was.
man.
yeah, but the lesson there, and you can apply this in investing, a real estate agent is really just not that I was lackadaisical, but like really just thinking if you're an investor, like looking through a contract or negotiating terms, like really taking the time to understand
Yeah.
what you're either submitting or what you're getting in return.
You know
And
what I
same as
think?
an yeah.
I think you should have looked at that lady and you should have been like, looks like you should have pushed for the leases and we have multiple offers. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, yeah, I might show up some courage and call her and say that now, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was
yeah. She's
in
like,
the
"Who are
top.
you?"
Yeah, exactly. She's my 3 year competition, like lady. So yeah,
Oh man.
that was pretty chaotic, but no, I mean every deal has its own nuances, its
Yeah.
intricacies. It's just you get better over time. Nothing's gonna be perfect, but that's a lesson I know now.
No, yeah, that's good.
Dude, let me roll an equivalent, not equivalent. It's my smaller pocket story. I
Yeah.
almost lost my license over a $15,000 house.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
And my team member at the time was like, it's always the little deals that'll get you sued and you'll lose your license. He told me that like a couple months before this scenario happened. And a mutual connection of mine reached out and said, hey, there's this house listed. I'd like to write the offer through you. I don't feel comfortable with the listing agent.
Yep.
And he did not, like, there wasn't a full disclosure of like how far along in the process he had been with this agent and the owner already talking and negotiating.
Oh wow.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll do it as a favor for you. It was like I was making like $700. You know what I mean? So it's not like it was a financially advantageous thing. It was just like, hey, he wants representation. I get it. I'll step in. I'll do it. I write the offer. Dude, I got a call from the listing agent, and she was hot. She was livid. And she's like, I'm calling your broker. This was a breach of, fiduciary duty and dual agency and all this different stuff. And I'm a new agent at the time. And I was like, well, this is it. I'm a single income family. My wife doesn't work, and I'm going to lose my real estate license. And long story short, she ended up backing off. But when you're new and another agent threatens to go to the division, you don't have any context for what that means.
You're like, I'm going to jail.
I think I did something criminal. That's probably a felony,
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you did it. Lose your license, of course. You're right. It's because it's the barrier to entry is you've just got so many different personalities. You've got so much tenure. Like you could have people that have been practicing for 40 years,
Yeah.
and then someone for 4 days. So like, it's a huge melting pot of background, egos, personalities, experience. Yeah.
And the funny thing about that transaction is he closed that. I end up coming on the team later. That house burns almost all the way down.
Oh,
We sell that house, get in another precarious situation.
Yeah.
So we sold that house, which was basically the lot. I mean, the house was like half burnt down. We sold it for $10,000.
That's hard to do.
And it was one of those deals where it just sat on the market, no activity. All of a sudden, we had 3 offers come in simultaneously. It was the craziest thing. Ended up doing a really sketchy, wrote the offer on behalf of the buyer, but made it super clear we're not representing you because it was so sketchy. And he bought it, never did anything with it. I saw it on Facebook Marketplace like 6 months later. I was like, we almost lost our license twice over this deal.
It's that house, man.
It's you're right. I mean, your team member who had kind of told you those sub. I mean, nowadays it's 100,000, but like those really low price points. I mean, even if you're representing a buyer, it's like the inspection comes back, and when budgets are tight, like, oh gosh, this defective water here could just kill the whole deal. And it's like, man, they can be so just hard to navigate.
It's like a $600 water heater. It's like, how is this? I know.
Yeah.
No, it is crazy. So, all right, we're going to jump into our little nugget.
All right, Doug, you've given us a lot of great information, but now we're going to ask you for something fundamental to the way you kind of conduct your business that you think would be applicable for someone else, or it could be very practical, like a life hack, just something that really moves the needle.
Yeah, so I'm a big personal development buff. I am what is called a Canfield certified trainer in the Success Principles, and I'm also right now, at the time of this recording, working on becoming a Keller Williams University approved trainer. So personal development for me is just huge.
Yeah.
And so something I would recommend is actually not even investing or real estate related, but it's just it's getting better every day. And whether that's, listening to your guys' podcast, whether that's reading anyone can carve out 30 minutes to read a book. The reality is we spend about 500 to 1,000 hours in our car a day, probably as agents, probably more, right? We're in our car constantly. So listening to audiobooks, listening to podcasts, you could even start learning a new language, but because making learning based a foundation of your protocol, right? And so, Les Brown in the 80s said if someone were to read one book a month, within 5 years, they would become amongst the top 5% of experts in the world of that field. So I'm always reading. I mean, this is just my desk, but I've got a couple books like Think and Grow Rich, Dare to Lead. This is a leadership book by Brene Brown. It does so well for you in your business, your personal life, because you start getting better. You start applying that to your business, to your life. And the really cool thing is the ancillary effects that start to occur.
Yeah.
People enjoy being around you more, right? Your family benefits, your relationships, your colleagues, the people you serve. So you naturally just become, I think, a more interesting person to be around. And I think you start liking yourself more when you start becoming self-aware of where you're at in the process. So I would say if someone can at least devote 30 minutes a day to some sort of learning-based activity, whether it's reading, audiobook, listening to a podcast, watching, I've tried to supplement Netflix, Hulu, all the streaming services with I actually like the Masterclass
Oh, wow.
that
I've
that
heard of
app.
that. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, and I like it because it's got so many different, pioneers in different fields. And as much as I love real estate, I like learning from top people in different fields, like Richard Branson
Yeah.
or Elon Musk, or there's a gentleman who runs, a boutique luxury private jet business, right?
Yeah.
So it's like Napoleon Hill when he started the mastermind group in the early 1900s. He had folks from all different fields: Harvey Firestone, Thomas Edison, Luther Burbank, Woodrow. I mean, all different fields, and they all just kind of learned and fed off of each other. So um, I would keep an open mind to different perspectives, different points of views. One of my favorite quotes is "Be open-minded to everything and attached to nothing." And so I think so often, especially maybe a real estate transaction, we just become so quick to like a knee-jerk reaction to react, or to
Mhm.
our ego gets in the way. But just taking a second to process and then articulate a response, I think that'll do really well developing that communication skill also.
Yeah. No, I love that. You're speaking my language, man.
You know what's crazy about the personal development? Sometimes it gets overhyped in the wrong ways. The benefit of it is that when you are achieving incremental kind of gains in any area of your life, and it's intentional, when your day sucks, or when there's an area of your business that you're really wrapped up in that's not going the way that you want it to go, having something to fall back on. At least I'm growing here.
Yeah.
At least this is going right. And so, like, when the things that you can't control go wrong, the things you can control give you that perspective to keep moving forward. That's been super helpful for me.
For sure.
When you're stepping out in business, you're stepping out in entrepreneurship, you're trying to grow in that mastery that you're talking about, dude, you're always reinventing yourself. You're stepping across this invisible threshold of, this is a new day. I've never done this before. And so you're just throwing your mind in this constant state of like growth and that stress. So having something you control is huge. I think that's a great piece of
No, it
advice.
is. And for me, it's like, man, if I know, no matter what happens today, and if I can get my run in, and if I can read,
You're trying to run every day for this next year.
yeah, if I can get my run in, and if I can read it, like I feel like I accomplished the day. I really do. Like for me, those are the two pillar disciplines. If I can do those two things, I'm like, at least I know I did better today. I improved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on track. And the day could have just been terrible. And I would go to bed and I'd be like, I still did stuff today. I accomplished it. And so find that for yourself, those little ways to improve every day. Get 1% better every day. What are the micro adjustments you can make every day that, again, compound over time, and it has massive impact on your life and on your family and on your kids. And so, yeah, I could talk about that all day. So thanks for bringing that up.
Doug, this kind of parlances or segues into one of our closing questions. And I'm going to usually we say, what's the best resource in your business development? But because books and learning is a huge passion of yours, what is one of your favorite and most formational books that has really guided you or molded you?
So probably probably the book in which really changed my life back in 2018 was really The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I met him. So for those who may not know, Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen, they co-wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, which has now gone on to sell more than 500 million copies. That's with an M.
Wow.
So um, when they wrote the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, how they started getting so much viewership was the human mind relates to stories, right? Stories kind of Velcro the message. And so the success principles did the same thing, just with success stories. And so that book kind of transformed my life because out of the 60 plus principles in the book, the first one is accept 100% responsibility for your life. And until you really truly do that and understand that, you're what Brian Tracy would call an emotional child, right? It's the market that's responsible for how you are. It's your wife, it's your boss, it's the dog, it's the neighbor. But until you really, look yourself in the mirror and you take 100% responsibility for where you are, your results, everything you're experiencing in life, you can then go to work on doing the inner work and changing yourself. And that I remember on the flight home from LA, because I was at a real estate conference and getting that book and just reading it. And I just made a huge shift from that. And I like it because it's a compilation. Like there's so many success and personal development books, but he's taken a really good job of like taking a lot of the past, century of thought leaders and philosophers and practical things that work, and just really just slapped it all in one book.
That's
I
good.
still read tons of personal development books, but to me, that's kind of like a Bible of how to live a successful life, and your personal, your business, your spiritual, your philanthropical, leisure, all of those things. So
Awesome.
That's cool. I've not read that one, so that sounds interesting.
The
yeah,
success
he
principles.
just came out with the 20th anniversary edition, so it's a little
Cool.
updated with AI, technology, all of those things, but Amazon, or you can find it. Um, And for those also, because this is kind of an Ohio-based, it should be up in Lima as well, but the Libby app through at least the
Oh yeah,
Cincinnati Public Library,
we do have
you
that. Yeah,
can, I mean, you can get, I listen to tons of audiobooks,
for
ebooks,
free.
magazines for free. It's an
Yeah.
amazing resource. So
Yeah.
that's a great one as well.
Awesome, man. Doug, thank you so much for your time on the podcast today and breaking down your business. And then more than anything, just your commitment to continue to learn and grow in the industry. What does it look like for people to connect with you, follow your success moving forward?
Yeah, so my Instagram, it sounds kind of pretentious. I made it when I was like 15, but it's official Doug Phillips. Um, and yeah, I mean, my cell phone number, I can put in the notes if you'd like. But
Yeah.
yeah, on Facebook, Doug Phillips.
Yeah.
I'm not too hard to find. I love
Awesome.
talking about real estate and personal development, anything I can do to help. And yeah, help you guys as well. Just let me know.
Anybody that's looking at property in the greater Cincinnati area, you now have a personal connection, Doug Phillips.
Right.
And dude, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you guys, and really everything you do for the industry. And congratulations on your success. 3 years running now.
Awesome.
Thanks, man. As always, excited that you joined us for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If you want to learn how you can use your hard-earned capital to diversify into real estate, go to our website, reinvestcapital.us, and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper.